So, as you guys know, I've spent the better part of the last 2 years going from cabin to cabin, tiny home to tiny home, all across the United States and Canada, and capture it all through photos. And come to think of it, I've stayed in nearly 75 different places, which is crazy. And in those 2 years, I've gotten to experience quite a few truly terrific and unique places, and I'm so beyond grateful for it all. Even more grateful now that I'm starting to find my purpose in what it is that I'm doing. Each place that I've been lucky enough to stay at has touched me in its own special way. Before I had ever stayed in a treehouse or tiny home, I had always thought that the only way to live was to buy a traditional home. I now know that that's not the case, and that there are so many other, more sustainable and eco-friendly alternatives out there, especially within the Airbnb rental industry. Here are a few Airbnb rentals that are doing their part in going green. First up, we have the Mountain House in Roscoe, New York. The Mountain House was completely renovated this year by Sabrina and Brandon. They did everything in their power to refurbish and reuse any part of this dilapidated home that they could. And when they couldn't salvage the original parts, they used the most eco-friendly alternatives, such as the bamboo flooring to replace the moldy carpet. Along with using sustainable materials to rehab this place, they also constantly are promoting sustainable practices. All of their appliances, kitchenware, toiletries, and furniture are all consciously curated. And what's even better is that on their website, they've linked all of these items so that you can browse and even purchase them there after trying them out at the home. They're seriously paving the way for going green in the rental industry. Next up, we have the Vermont Yurt in Putney. I love yurts, which makes it pretty funny that I've only actually stayed in 2 of them before. This one in Putney, Vermont that I'll continue showing, and this one here in Ontario last year. Yurts are fundamentally quite simple. Their structures are comprised of a base platform and a canvas tent held up by cut tree trunks that have been pieced together. This makes them super eco-friendly as 1, their materials are more often not locally harvested, 2, they usually aren't that big, meaning that they don't even require a ton of material to begin with, and 3, they're extremely durable and long-lasting. Most of them are also able to be taken down and moved if need be. Up until this past summer, I had never even thought of how a yurt could be lived in, but after experiencing it firsthand, I could totally see it. I definitely am wanting to have 1 or 2 when I start my own eco-village someday. And speaking of eco-villages, the first and somehow only eco-village that I've actually been to is the Terra Perma eco-village in Harrington, Quebec. I was lucky enough to spend a few nights there in the summer of 2019, and it completely opened my eyes to a whole new way of living. They had all of these different eco-friendly accommodations, huge gardens, tons of trails, and so much more. It was my first time ever experiencing anything of the sort. I was captivated, and it sparked something inside of me. It showed me that there are so many alternative ways to live that do less harm to the planet. This cabin, for example, was built using straw bales. And what's crazy is that it kept the cabin cool during the day and warm at night since it's super breathable. I was also introduced to hempcrete while I was there. Hemp is very sustainable to grow, and from the sound of it, much better to build with than a typical mortar or concrete. The Terra Perma eco-village completely opened my eyes to sustainable living, and to this day I'm so utterly grateful of that. I personally think that one of the absolute coolest things ever is when something that has been disregarded and left to rot away in a landfill somewhere is given a second life. Like a school bus that doesn't run turned into an amazing getaway, or a shipping container turned tiny home. And not only are the structures themselves repurposed, but the materials used to furnish and build them out are predominantly recycled and reclaimed too. From pallets though.
Yeah, from pallets. Nice slab of beach that we salvaged, and then...
It amazes me how thoughtful and resourceful people can truly be. Anyways, the point of this video was more or less to show you guys some alternative ways of living, to tell you that a composting toilet isn't that scary, that even if you have no idea what a yurt is, or if you think you could never stay in any sort of tiny home, that you should definitely try it out, even just for a night. I promise you it'll be worth it. And if you're watching this and you or someone you know is doing anything similar to these, please, please, please reach out to me. Let me tell your story. Alright, clan. Till next time. Peace.